Check Podcasts. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from here in the podcasting studios at the Check Media Group, one of our chamber champions. We are, of course, speaking to you from the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, known to us every day as Songhees and Esquimalt, or Cossapsum nations. And all of this is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, who are redefining what banking can do for people, for community, and for the world. When you're consuming your media, your information, whatever it might be, there's that whole sort of on the local scale around here in Greater Victoria, there's the cohort of regular newsmakers, the people that you hear from all the time. There's like the mayors and the councillors and athletes and chamber CEOs and people like that. But somebody else that pops up all the time in our media feeds is our guest today. Del Manak is the Chief of Police of the Victoria Police Department. Chief, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me on, Bruce.
Nice to see you again, and great to have you back on Chamber Chats. Well, we're going to talk about some things that are disturbing that people worry about all the time, which is the reason why policing is here. Let's begin with this, though. What's the greatest thing about being the Chief of Police? What do you love the most about your role?
Well, I think that's a great question. I will tell you that I feel that it's an honor and a huge privilege to be the police chief in the city that I was born and raised in. I have an opportunity to really be the voice and the face for the officers and our staff that do amazing work. And so, I'm on the receiving end usually of a lot of accolades and a lot of thank yous of the great work that our officers are doing in keeping our community safe. And I love giving back. I love being out in the community and being active, and it's something that I enjoy interacting with the public. So lots of positives, but with it also, as you know, Bruce, comes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. It's funny, you and I were just chatting before we started here. You're a guy that was born and raised here, like you said. So if you were in this position of Chief of Police 30 years ago, it'd be a whole different scene, right, in Greater Victoria?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, if you look back to anything that was in place 30 years ago, technology, where we were just as communities, there's so much more complexity. I think today, the biggest changes that I see, many are positive. The city of Victoria has grown tremendously. And I think with growth, though, comes some challenges when it comes to public safety. But if you look at people wanting to live downtown, you look at the addition of transportation changes that have happened. But also, again, as I said, with it comes crime, some disorder. Where certainly 30 years ago, you would never see the level of homelessness, mental health, and addictions that are playing out very, very publicly. And we all seem to have a kind of a front row seat at that table, which is problematic, and it creates challenges for the police department and many, many of our service providers that are trying to help our most vulnerable population.
And so 30 years ago is one thing. What about a year ago? What's going on now compared to the way things were 12 months ago from now?
Well, I think things are just amplified. If you just look at coming out of COVID, I think that we seem to be a little bit more polarized and quite divisive in our views. And this is just permeates kind of throughout the country. It's not just here in Victoria. And with it, though, comes kind of the decoupling of kind of the social fabric. Protests. You look at the number of protests, civil disobedience throughout the country, but specifically here for VicPD's jurisdiction, we're literally seeing in the last year, I think we're on week 41 for weekly protests that we see that are happening here. But with it comes the violence, the crime, the drug addiction, mental health issues, and some of the social disorder that we're seeing. Much of this, though, Bruce, it's not really a crime. It's not criminal. But yet the police, it's not a police problem, but the police are left to pick up the pieces and deal with a lot of the issues that we're seeing in society in general.
Things that we see, we mentioned you being a newsmaker and you're involved in these things. Most recently, a little while ago, the issue on Pandora where 911 respondents now have to have police assistance to go in and do what they do. But the stories we hear, there's a microscope on that 900 block of Pandora and a couple of other areas. And downtown sort of wears that reputation. Downtown Victoria is not full of widespread rampant violence and crime, right? It's only in a very few areas. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you brought that up, Bruce, because downtown is safe. There's no doubt about it. People are going through downtown. People work there, they play there. We have tourists that are coming in and out. It's a great place to be, and I know that the city has done a really good job of reinvigorating and reimagining downtown. It's a great place to be. Now, are there issues in some places? Yeah, for sure there are. But you show me a city across this country that's the size of Victoria or larger that doesn't have some social issues and some work that needs to be done. So those are things that we are working regularly on to make sure that we maintain a safe and vibrant downtown and a welcoming downtown. And I would say both daytime and nighttime, because our entertainment district is one of the best entertainment districts that we have in the region. And we have lots of people coming from all over the region to celebrate and to enjoy themselves downtown.
Yeah, you don't have to actually leave the island to see other municipalities that are having some similar issues to that. Something you and I have talked about in the past at events that we do with the Chamber and otherwise, and you talk about the incidences of crime and violence and things like that. The prolific offenders, the ones that are repeat offenders over and over again, commit a crime, they're arrested, they can't be held, they're released. How many of those people are there that keep perpetuating all of this criminal activity?
Well, that number fluctuates, but that's totally true. There's a saying in policing where we say, 20% of the criminals are responsible for 80% of the crime. And so the numbers do fluctuate community to community, but I would tell you that there are individuals, and this will be a no surprise to anyone that's listening to this podcast, that there are individuals who are career criminals. They get up every morning and their sole purpose is to cheat and to steal and to do whatever they can to carry on with their criminal enterprise. Now, some of it may be fueled through drug addiction, where they need to feed their drug habit. Some of it is just for profit. And so we do see a number of challenges within Greater Victoria, but specifically for the VicPD in dealing with many prolific offenders. So we really need to do a better job of monitoring, managing, working with our criminal justice partners in making sure that there's proper conditions that are set. Those that have a propensity towards violence, or even if they're a repeat offender, but significantly that they're causing community harm, that they're kept in custody. And those are things I think that the federal government, the provincial government, through lobbying from our premiers, is trying to get some of the laws changed to give greater teeth and greater tools and a level of deterrence to criminals that their behavior will be held accountable. But we're just not there yet. And that's just the reality.
Yeah, and actually, chambers of commerce and boards of trade across the country are also pushing that message out so that it's better heard and better understood by other levels of government, for sure. You referred to something I want to pick up on again, and that is that, having a homeless situation or having a mental illness challenge is not a crime. I want to talk about that next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Del Manak. He is the Chief Constable for Victoria Police. So there's a response template kind of thing that's happening now, whereby someone's in conflict, first thing you do, you call the cops. But if it's not criminal activity, but if it's something based on some sort of mental instability, that's a different response, right? Let's talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. So, we're proud to support the PAC team. So the PAC team stands for Peer Assisted Care Team. It's done and supported through the Canadian Mental Health Association and the City of Victoria. VicPD supported this. So this is low-level calls where somebody is depressed and they would like somebody to talk to them, or they just need some necessary supports. That can be handled by a civilian team. And we certainly support that because it reduces the calls for VicPD. We've also started a co-response team. So we started this last year, and this is really important for us. So we've got a mental health professional, a registered psychiatric nurse that's partnered with a police officer that's driving an unmarked car. The officer themselves is in plain clothes, so there's no stigma around having a firearm, a uniform, because really it's not a crime when we're responding to a mental health call. And so what we're doing is this team is able to respond. Now, the officer's job is simply to make sure that the mental health professional is safe and that they can gain the trust, build rapport, and determine what steps need to happen. And it may be an apprehension under the Mental Health Act, or it just may mean that they need to refill their prescription or what other diversion that we can do. But the goal here is to help people in the first instance achieve a better outcome, and one that necessarily doesn't tax on to arresting them or apprehending them under the Mental Health Act and taking them to hospital. So we're really trying to find better pathways of care, better support for people who need us most at their most trying time.
And that PACT thing that you spoke about, actually, we talked about at our chamber AGM. You were kind enough to be on a panel along with Johnny Morris from the Canadian Mental Health Association and Caroline Ibarra from Pacifica Housing, because we tied together policing, mental health care, housing, all are related to each other. But in that conversation and other times, Del, we've talked about the idea of involuntary care. So when, again, someone is assessed that they are no longer capable of making a decision in their own best interest, what's that process like?
Yeah, well, it's an uphill battle. It still boggles my mind that this isn't top of mind for government to address. The reality is that on our streets, we have a number of individuals, and that group is not very large, but there's a number of individuals who have lost the ability to have healthy insight into their behavior. They have a high degree of propensity towards violence. There is very difficult to provide them with any outreach and any support and any mental health care. And when they're psychotic or they're having a violent episode, we tend to put them through the system. The system is not built to support this small group of individuals. And I've been long advocating for involuntary care with a therapeutic lens, looking at helping people and giving them the wraparound services to give them a better quality of life. It's a discussion that we ought to have been having years ago, and it's something that I strongly advocate for all levels of government to look at. And again, we have election coming up in the fall. Whoever forms the government, this will be something that I know a number of the police chiefs will be advocating for to our health authority.
Yeah, the individual that actually created the attack on the 911 worker that has now led to VicPD backing up those 911 calls, that was one of those individuals, was it not?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So there you go.
So another part of this is the illegal drug supply. We could talk all day about that. We're not going to, but we are going to talk about it. It seems to me that that supply is stubbornly reliable and available. Tell me about that. Where is that all coming from?
Sure. Well, I can tell you that the BC gang conflict is alive and well throughout the province of BC, across Vancouver Island, and right here within VicPD's jurisdiction. Our surveillance teams, our officers on the front lines, so both frontline operations and our covert operations, are regularly monitoring the drug lines and the drug trafficking and the violence that is brought with that right into our communities here. So we do an amazing job with our officers in trying to, number one, detect, deter, and then make sure that we are doing everything that we can to hold those people accountable and let them know that they're not welcome in our community. And so far we've been actually holding our own. I'm again very pleased, but it's something that the drug lines that are established are long-standing lines, and it is extremely lucrative and profitable for those that are involved in organized crime to carry out with their enterprise. And of course, now what we're finding is it's not just drug trafficking, it's firearms trafficking, and it's also human trafficking. So they've expanded the role with organized crime, and it's really important that police organizations like VicPD are on top of what's happening in our communities, and we're able to detect it, deter it, and also disrupt those lines.
Yeah, that organized crime stuff has a lot to do with the weapons that have been seized. You mentioned human trafficking as well. We want to pick up on that on the conversation next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Del Manak. He's the chief of police at VicPD. So even recently, we've seen these caches of weapons being seized that you guys are able to source, and you get them off the street and get them out of those hands. First of all, why is there so many of them? And secondly, where are they coming from?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really important for us to a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So we want to a lot of times just show the public of what actually we're finding. So the reality of it is, and we don't talk about this often, but the reality of it is that you show me a supportive housing location or individuals that are entrenched in different neighborhoods, like the 900 block of Pandora or the 500 block of Ellis, and I will show you the criminal element that is embedded amongst those that are our most vulnerable and marginalized population. And they are extremely good at exploiting our most marginalized population. There's a level of violence on our streets. Some of the weapons are possessed by individuals who want to carry weapons for self-defense in the unlikely event that they're attacked or an issue that happens. But most of the weapons that we are seizing and finding are held by those that are preying on our most vulnerable, by the criminal element, the bad actors that have embedded themselves. They have a number of weapons. Many of the weapons are hidden in tents and other areas so that if the police are checking somebody, it's not obvious that they're carrying a weapon, but they have access to multiple weapons within a community. So in the event that they need that. And so there's a lot of exploitation going on. There's a lot of strong arming and a lot of violence that's used on individuals to carry out their criminal enterprises. And that's just the norm. So it's really important for us to not only seize the weapons, but to try to charge people where we can and where they're possessing their weapons. And again, it's through a repeated process to the courts to have enough charges laid frequently enough where we're going to find that the courts are going to actually hold people in custody where people are held accountable for their actions. So it's a work in progress, but it certainly is a little bit of an uphill battle for the frontline officers working on our streets.
Yeah, the court system, the justice system is overloaded, and it needs to be propped up a little bit more for a lot of this stuff to be processed. Something else you want to talk about a little bit is you mentioned human trafficking. The sex trade is alive and well, much of that, of course, based in criminal activity and in drug dealing and all the rest of it. Can you just give us a little snapshot of that?
Yeah, and so it continues to be a challenge. Again, organized criminals will find their way in what gives them the most profit and the least likelihood of detection and arrest. And so it's really important that we are regularly in contact with social services and organizations that are supporting our sex trade workers and whatnot. And of course, a lot of this now is no longer on our streets. It's hidden because there's an online component to it. So anybody who is taken against their will, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, they cannot make their own decisions. We do know that Victoria is a part with Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, Toronto, and a number of cities, including Vancouver, where regularly women are trafficked throughout the region from city to city, and they're moved around to make sure that they're not detected and they're running kind of away from the police officers coming into contact with them on a regular basis. So again, we're working extremely hard in working with all of the intelligence that we gather and any information and intelligence that we do gather where there's a ring, and again, it's organized criminals that are usually leading these rings, are held accountable for their actions. But it's very difficult to get into the inner circle unless we have somebody who comes into our contact and is able to make a disclosure to us that they're held against their will, and then is able to share that. And even then, there's so much trauma and so much fear for retribution that usually it's very, very hard for them to actually trust the police to be able to share what they've been experiencing.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's tragic. Much of what we've talked about here is reactive in the work that police forces like yours are doing. You have something called the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan coming up. So that's a little more proactive stuff. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's highly encouraging. This is an initiative from Victoria Mayor and Council. The mayor reached out to a number of community leaders. We actually had a meeting earlier today on this. And so in August of last year, what we're trying to do is through the input and feedback from our communities as well, is support the city in the development of their community safety and well-being plan. This plan is going to be coming out more than likely in the fall of this year. It is a step forward in addressing maybe some of the root causes of problems and challenges that we see. We do continue to work in silos, no finger pointing needed, but we need to be better aligned in supporting people who need our help. And so I think what I'm encouraged about for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan is that it's going to be an actionable plan, a plan that is going to allow the city to address maybe some of the root causes of issues and challenges that we are currently seeing. There will be some immediate actions that we can follow to improve the current situation, but to address some of the inequities that we see around housing, healthcare, mental health care, and service providers, I think is going to be advantageous in the long run. So I just think it's important to invest in the future of this city, and I think this plan is going to look at doing that.
Yeah, and we look forward to that. I want to loop back for just a second, too, on the organized crime thing. Organized crime is very actively pursuing students, kids in schools, right, in schoolyards. So you've had to deal with that issue for a while and about the placement of officers in schoolyards. What's the status of that?
Yeah, so there's major challenges right here in Greater Victoria, and we've been bringing these to the attention of School District 61. The principals and vice principals know it. The teachers know it. There are, in many of our schools, there are certain washrooms that are off limits for students because they don't feel safe going to the bathroom within their own school. The gang members know they're very good. They're very savvy at grooming young kids and young students, even into middle schools. And it's usually the parents, the last one to find out, because it's something that they've been given, they've been rewarded, and then next thing you know, you're working for a gang to pay off a debt that unknowingly the student got involved in a situation that seemed very, very innocent at the beginning. And so we know that this is happening in our schools. We know that our gang members are also approaching students. Students are walking out to meet them. They're selling vape products, which then lead to more threats and intimidation. And it's just kind of the path towards gang activity. We need to be in schools. We're advocating strongly with School District 61 Board of Education that leaving the police on the outside while you have known gang members and associates operating and conducting their business within your schools and students not feeling safe is a priority. And we need to make sure that we're working together and building those positive relationships. What I'd like to see is when there's worrisome behaviors for students that start to present themselves that are beyond the capability and capacity of teachers and school administrators, the police were a resource and a relationship that we had pre-built with the students and the teachers because we had familiarity, which then leads to building trust and then leads to disclosure. We need to be intervening early, and we need to make sure that we're helping support student safety at the earliest opportunity rather than after the fact where they've been victimized. So those are discussions that are ongoing, and I know that the province and the Ministry of Education is also looking at student safety and what needs to change and what may need to happen come September when school starts up again.
Chief, you lead a remarkable team and you lead by example. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your time today. Del Manak is the Chief of Police for the City of Victoria and also a huge New York Islanders fan, but we'll talk about that another time. Chief, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Bruce.
You bet. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.